Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Daniel,
We are the hosts of the EVLC podcast.
where we interview people that are making a positive impact in the world. Right. So, welcome back, everybody, to the EVLC podcast. Today, we're interviewing Travis Rosbach. Is that how you say your last name?
Yeah, Rosbach.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. He is the inventor and founder of Hydro Flask. He is a pilot and he now runs the Tumalo Group, providing sourcing, advising, and consulting to businesses. Welcome to Travis.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you guys for having me. This is an honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So first, we wanted to know what inspired you to start Hydro Flask?
Well, the original thing that kind of kicked off the whole idea was I was thirsty. I was living in Honolulu in Hawaii, in Oahu, and went into the sporting goods store to go get a water bottle. And the whole shelf was just empty, completely empty. I think there was maybe 3 bottles left. And I asked the guy, I said, "Hey man, what happened? Like, where did all the water bottles go?" And he said, "There's this thing. We're not really sure what it is. It's in plastic. It's called BPA. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's not looking good." I said, "All right, well, who's going to fill up this shelf?" And he said, "Nobody. There are no other brands." And it just kind of like hit me in the back of the head. It came out. It was kind of overwhelming. I will do that. And he laughed at me. And from the time it came out of my mouth and the time he laughed at me, I saw the future. I saw 10 years down the line, standing up on stage talking about this highly successful water bottle company. And so after I said that I would do that, it was kind of like a challenge to myself. And it was also kind of like, why shouldn't I go do that? So that's kind of how it got started.
So there was definitely some doubts at the beginning, like from people around you, right?
Oh, for sure. I think the biggest doubt came when, so we ordered the minimum, like it was kind of a while later, we ended up ordering the first order, which was 3,000 pieces. And we ran out of money and couldn't afford all 3,000. So I asked the factory if we could only get 1,500 because that's all we could afford. And the guy is like, "Yeah, we're probably going to have to scrap the other 1,500 because this is a dumb idea. Nobody's going to buy double wall vacuum insulated water bottles. Like, there's no market for this. This is stupid. Like, this was a dumb idea. I should have never done this to begin with." And when I heard him say that, I was like, you know what? Watch this. I'm going to go ahead and sell that 1,500 and the next 1,500. And I didn't know if I'd ever sell, 3,001, but I knew that like I had to at least sell 3,000 to prove out the idea. But it kind of set me back a minute when the factory told me it wasn't even a good idea.
Yeah.
So, what were your biggest lessons learned from starting a successful business?
Well, I think a lot of the things that I learned along the way have to do with like just perseverance. Like, it gets hard and then it gets harder still. And then they'll take your money from you and they'll try to steal from you and they'll try to, like it gets really difficult. And if you listen to the critics and if you give up, then you don't get anywhere, So I think a lot of the lessons were in just like never give up, never give up, and just keep persevering and going after what you believe in. And like if you believe in it, chances are someone else believes in it as well.
For sure. Was there ever like a point, speaking on that, where you wanted to give up, like during that whole process? Like, do you remember a specific time where that happened?
Multiple times, all the time. Like it got so difficult that because it grew so quickly that we could not keep up with the demand. We just did not have enough money to buy more product because we have to pay the factory And then about 30 days later, they make the bottles and then they ship them, which took 30 days. So now we're up to 60 days. And then it goes through customs and then it gets into the warehouse and then it ships out. So it could take anywhere from 90 to 120 days to get paid after putting the money out. And as it kept growing, we had to keep buying more and more and bigger orders. And so a lot of time, most of the time, we didn't have enough money to buy bottles and pay the employees and pay ourselves and pay the bills. And so I had a motorcycle back then. And I remember twice, very, very specifically, I just had had enough. I said, I can't take this anymore. It's too difficult. And I kind of like ran away from the headquarters and I went home and I packed my bags and I was just going to ride my motorcycle down to Argentina and then just take off over to South Africa and then just be gone. So I get everything packed and I'm ready to go. And I realized that I didn't have my motorcycle boots. They were in getting the zipper fixed. I was like, man, okay, well, next week I'm going over to South America. I'm going down to South America. I'm leaving next week as soon as I get my boots back. And, the next week it got easier. And then week after it got easier. And then it happened again later on where I did the same thing. I was like, I'm out, I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. Like, just close it down. I'm done. Got home, packed my bags, got my boots this time, and my passport had been down at the visa company. I had to get a Chinese visa, and I didn't have my passport. I was like, well, if I can't even get into Mexico, how am I going to get to South America and then around the world, And I guess I'll just go into work again tomorrow. And so I went in the next day, and and 5 years later, I just kept going in.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Was there so something kept you motivated, right? Like something kept you stopping you from running away, right?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things was the feedback from the customers that were starting to get hydrated for the first time in their lives was the feedback that I needed to keep me going, keep me in the game. People were telling me how they've lost weight. Their whole body is better and they're getting promotions at work and on and on and on. And just the outpouring of thank you letters, it made me realize this is just bigger than Travis. I'm doing this for other people. I gotta hang in there for them. So that was my big incentive to stay.
Okay.
So what was your first job and what did you learn from it?
My very first job, I did construction. Actually, no, I take that back. My very first job was working for my dad at the scuba diving shop down in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I go down in the summers and work for him. And I learned it's very difficult to work for family. Very, very difficult. They expect a lot. And it was difficult. My first job outside of that was doing construction, though. I did a little bit of construction one summer in high school. And from that, I learned that if you have a hammer, people will come along and ask you to carry heavy stuff. If you've got a tape measure, people leave you alone because they don't want to mess with, cutting and, measuring and stuff like that. So I always had a tape measure with me. And when I see the foreman coming, I'd take out the tape measure and I'd take out my pencil and I'd be thinking and I'd, pretend like I'm doing math and writing stuff out. And he'd walk right past me and hey, John, go get that sheet of plywood and take it up to the third floor. And I'm like, yes.
So you would just do it to get out of lifting
Yeah, I
stuff.
didn't want to have to carry heavy stuff. Yeah.
I
And
understand.
the other thing I learned was Spanish. Like that, I realized that a lot of the foremen didn't even speak Spanish, but most of us laborers, well, not myself, but most of the laborers were predominantly Mexican. And he didn't learn Spanish. I learned Spanish just working with them and being around them and hanging out with them, even after work and going to their houses and just, stuff like that. Learning Spanish was big because he would ask me to do stuff that I could then ask, the rest of the crew to do. And then I kind of got into that foreman level pretty quickly just by the tape measure and Spanish.
Oh, okay. So I was gonna ask, what was your dream job as a kid?
I had a few. I I think when I was really young, I kind of wanted to be a firefighter. I thought that that was pretty brave and courageous and adventurous and, scary and dangerous, and like it could be pretty cool. And then as I got older, I met my dad who was in the Virgin Islands, and I just wanted to do dive shops and scuba diving and stuff like that. But I also was really fascinated with the mafia, and I kind of wanted to join the mafia and see how the business side of the mafia worked. Um, Luckily, I did not do that. I've avoided the mafia life thus far.
That's cool.
So, can you tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know?
Um, Something interesting. Uh, I would say probably maybe that most people don't know. I'm happiest by myself under the water. That's my happy place. Like if I'm at least 60 to 160 feet under the warm water scuba diving, that's probably where I'm most comfortable and most at home. And I would spend the rest of my life there if I didn't have to eat food. It's hard to eat underwater.
So what made you like what started this fascination with scuba diving? Was it working like at the with your dad?
Well, I think it was really Jacques Cousteau back when I was really little.
Mm.
I remember watching, he was on every Sunday night. Jacques Cousteau would come on, and there were palm trees, which we don't have palm trees in Oregon, or at least not in Salem. And actually, I mean, maybe Southern Oregon has palm trees down closer to the border. I'm not really sure. I don't know that anywhere in Oregon I've ever seen a palm tree. I'm digressing though. Yeah, just I think Jacques Cousteau was the big motivator towards the scuba diving. Like I wanted to see the fish, and I wanted to experience that. And then when I met my dad, I mean, we're out scuba diving with sharks at 14, and I'm just watching the coral and the fish and all the sea life, and I just was really enthralled. And then over the years, I started to see how like the coral started to be bleaching and dying, and the plastics and the garbage in the ocean, and it was my home. Like that's my happy place, and it was getting invaded by plastic and garbage. And so that was another big push with Hydro Flask, was like, how do we help protect the oceans? Well, let's get rid of single-use plastic water bottles.
Okay.
Okay, so now I have a fun question. If you won $10 million tomorrow, what would you spend it on?
um, what I'd really like is they're called like an adventure yacht, like a trawler, I'd probably put maybe 2.5 million into a trawler it's an icebreaker trawler. And then I'd use another probably 2 to 3 million for crew. I'd probably need about a crew of 5, and helicopter pilot and all that stuff. And then I would just go live on my trawler with my crew, and my friends would just helicopter in, and then they could helicopter out, and we would just go break ice, and I would go explore the Arctic and try to push on through to see what's on the other side.
Okay. Also, I was gonna ask, what do you like to do in your free time? I know you mentioned like scuba diving, but what are the things that maybe other people don't know about?
I really like to do. I have some property, and I have started learning over the last, I don't know, probably 5 6 years. It's called silver culture. It's how to like manage a healthy forest. And so I really enjoy cutting down juniper trees that are a non-native noxious weed that suck up all the groundwater from the ponderosas that are native species. So I used to really love to chainsaw the trees, but now I like to sit in it's called a skid steer or a mini, and reach out and dig up the trees. And I like to do that kind of stuff. I also like skid steers, like these little, like you know what a skid steer is? It's like a little box on wheels or on tracks, and you can pick up heavy stuff with a grapple, or you can have a bucket, you can move stuff. Landscaping, I guess I could say I
Okay,
like
yeah.
landscaping.
Okay, that's cool.
Do you have any advice for anyone who wants to start a business?
I think just to, do as much research as you can, but don't get wrapped up in doing too much research. Make sure that it's a good idea. But if you have a strong passion or a strong calling to do whatever kind of business, I say go out and do it. Take the first step, open that door, walk through, start the company, act boldly, and unseen forces will come to your aid.
I agree. Like sometimes people just put in the research and they spend so much time researching that they don't actually go out and do stuff, whether it's like hobbies, whether it's like stuff they're passionate about. They're just research the whole time yeah,
Right. Yeah, it's called paralysis by analysis. And you have
yeah.
to watch out for that. Like, I think it is good to do some market research. I think it's good to see if it's going to work and if there is a market for it and if there is profit, because you have to have profit in order to have a productive, thriving, growing business. But you don't have to spend the rest of your life just doing analysis on whether it's going to work or not, because chances are somebody else will beat you to market if you do.
Yeah, I agree. I think in my opinion, you learn more than by actually doing it than just researching as a whole.
Big time. Yeah. Anytime I'm really that way also, Daniel. I think anytime that you can have experiential experience, I guess. Anytime you can actually do, you're going to learn. I think that everybody kind of learns their own separate way best. Some people are audible, so they can hear audio or audible, or is that the brand Audible? Audio. There's a fancy word there. Some people listen and hear and learn. Some people have to be writing, and that's how they learn. Some people speak and that's how they learn. Some people teach and that's how they learn. But I think if you can do all of it, if you can learn it and then do it and then teach it and then listen to stories and podcasts and read books and join trade organizations and get the magazines and YouTube videos, but it all comes back to actually doing it.
I completely agree. Like when I was trying to start this small business, like because I do filmmaking in my spare time, a freelance filmmaker, and I spent so much time reading business books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like what's it called? The Richest Man in Babylon, just a bunch of stuff. And I think I spent too much time on books, and I was like, maybe I should like actually send in the papers to start the business. Maybe I should actually go out there, get clients. Maybe I should do all this stuff, but I felt like I just kept on consuming.
Well, yeah, there's a point at which you do have to send in the paperwork. You do have to take that first step. You have to take the second step and the third step towards realizing that dream. I also really believe that you need to stay very inquisitive. Also, I think anytime that we think that we know everything, that's kind of a recipe for disaster. That's when we are going to learn that we don't really know anything at all.
Yeah.
And so consuming knowledge from other people, some of the greatest, those are the books that you mentioned are absolutely some of the top books to start out with. And I really commend you for doing that. That's awesome. The Millionaire Next Door, The Millionaire Mind, Dr. Stanley. Those are two good books also kind of fitting in that genre. I also really believe that anytime this is just my own kind of personal philosophy thing, but Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., if I'm in my truck or I'm traveling somewhere, I'm listening to business books on Audible, business books on tape. Back in the day, we used to go to the library and rent these cassette tapes, or then there was CDs and there was VHS movies that we would watch. Now it's all just download. But yeah, I kind of say Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I'm in business work mode, even if I'm traveling or doing anything else. And then outside of those hours, then I can listen to my playlists. Then I can listen to music and I can kind of take off. But I try to really commit to learning as much as I can, because there's always new information coming out. And so I think it's good to know, like what you're doing, Daniel, is those are the old classics. And there's a reason why they're classic. There's still a reason why you're listening to them and reading them. It's because they work. And so to get that good core foundation is very, very valuable for you. And then as you keep getting older and as more information keeps coming out, keep reading the new books and the newer books and the newer books. And then you kind of, yeah,
they're timeless. Those books are timeless. Like, they last forever. You know, all the lessons that I've taken, and they still relate, and they were made a while ago.
Word. Yeah, for real. Yeah.
What was the first book that you ever read? Do you remember? Like, business wise.
I was really fortunate. I say that, but then I kind of felt bad. So our next door neighbor died when I was 12, and we were eating government cheese. I mean, we were on welfare food stamps. It was bad. My mom was raising 4. Well, I shouldn't say it was bad. Like, we were having a lot of fun, but we had no money. My mom was raising 4 kids and we really didn't have much. Our next door neighbor, on the other hand, had just moved in. He was a highly successful, he was an attorney, and he seemed to have a lot of wealth. He always had nice suits and beautiful girlfriends and beautiful vehicles. And he just lived a radically different life than us, 15 feet away. And when he died, his sister asked my mom to do an estate sale. So we went in, and she told me that I could have anything I wanted. She's like, I'll give you a gift. Like, what do you want in this house? You can have it. And I saw the bookshelf, and it just all of a sudden was like, that's what I want. I had no idea what the books were, but they were business books. And Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Wayne Dyer, a lot of the sort of 80s and early 90s self-help business books, negotiations, sales, just business tips and tricks and strategies. I think that Brian Tracy has probably been one of my biggest, I've only talked to him a couple times, but he's, I've read all of his books, and most of all of his books, he's probably been one of my biggest business mentors ever, just by reading his books and taking his courses and classes and buying his merch.
Yeah. My first one was Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I feel like that was a really like influential
It
book
was. I bet. Yeah. Guy Callis, Guy, I think is his name. Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think getting a lot of those fundamentals is really good. I mean, it's really good. Some of those principles are great. I also believe that there are some authors that kind of run they kind of have an expiration date. I think that some information maybe used to be pertinent and relevant. And then as times change, we have to make sure that we're changing with the times. And some authors, I find, especially the older ones, have a hard time kind of staying pertinent and relevant. So they just kind of start throwing stuff out there. And that was just kind of a little.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, but I think it's just like how you take the lessons to apply them in current times. Like, they could still be old lessons, but I guess you can apply them to your life, like currently.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And that's a really good way to look at it. It's like, how do we superimpose 2022 with a book written in 1988? Because
like this book right here, I think I could see it's Babylon. It's like, how do you interpret this into like current 2022 times.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, and some of it is just like a feeling or just morals and values and disciplines and things like that, that even though you may not be able to articulate, you may not be able to put your finger on exactly how you're using that book in modern day times, it just is. You just have that inside of you. So you're there's a fancy word here. You're exuding, exude, not exude. That's absolutely not the right word. Exert. No, let's just skip this. There's you just are, like you read these books, you read these classical books on any topic, and you permeate. That's the word. It just permeates you. It just becomes who you are. And I think that's awesome that you're reading those.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Yeah, for real.
Okay, so we have one last question. How are you making the world a better place?
Today I filled up my dog's water bowls, and so they're happy. I do have bad news though. I haven't told anybody this yet. My daughter doesn't know. She's 5. We lost a cat a couple nights ago to the coyote. The coyotes came in and took one of the cats, the oldest cat, which she was only a year and a half. Her sister got taken by an owl, and now she got taken by a coyote. So how am I going to make the world a better place? I'm gonna put the cats inside the cat house at night from now on. And that'll make the cat's lives better. The dogs' lives are better because they have full water bowls.
They have 4. What kind of type of dogs do you have? What kind
I've
of
got a
dogs?
few. The 2 big ones are, both of them are half poodle. One of them's half Anatolian Shepherd. The other one is Great Pyrenees. And then the little one, she is wolf and Malamute and husky mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I was gonna ask, like, in terms of what she asked, how are you making like the world a better place in terms of like renewable,
Like
energy
what
and
else
stuff
am I
like
doing?
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I do with the Tumalo group is I help other like-minded people who want to help the environment and want to do good on this planet. I'm also working with a lot of people to move manufacturing back home to America. I think that it's about time we manufacture here again, and I'm hoping it's not too late, to tell you the honest truth.
Mhm.
Um, I think that we're going to find out here pretty quickly that importing everything from overseas worked really well for the capitalistic model that we were under. And but I think that times are changing and we need to look closer to home. So I'm helping businesses bring manufacturing back home to America, creating more jobs, cutting down carbon emissions. Travel, in general creates power, and power creates exhaust. And so hopefully that's a good answer. I'm
Yeah.
trying to bring, I'm helping people bring manufacturing back to America.
Well, you're doing great. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Travis, for taking the time to talk to us. It's a
Yeah,
pleasure.
guys. Yeah, thank you for having me. This was an honor.
Yeah, thank you.